Warning, 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 warning. Warning, 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 warning. This is a warning.
Good evening, and welcome to the New York Sports Guys program. My name is Gags. I will be your host, running solo tonight. Garris is not able to be with us. He had some family things he had to take care of, and that's all good. All well and good. You have me for the next 45 minutes, an hour. I don't know. We'll see how this goes. But what a weekend it was in sports as far as the NFL goes. The Jets did what we all thought they were going to do. And that's where I'm going to start. We're going to get into the Giants a little bit. We'll be talking Yankees, who are currently down 2-1 in the top of the sixth inning to the Boston Red Sox, clinging on to a one-game lead. And Baltimore is currently up 1-0 against Tampa in the top of the seventh. But we're going to jump back to Sunday's afternoon's drubbing that was put on the New York Jets. The New York Jets, everybody who's a football fan, who looks at the game in a manner that the hardcore fan does, they saw this team had problems. They saw that Tim Tebow was a mistake. They saw this team was nothing more than a 6-10 football team. And they showed they might not even be a 6-10 football team with the ass kicking that they've taken from the 49ers on Sunday. 34-0. Give me a break. Sanchez, 103 yards, 12 for 29 passing. Backups can put up better numbers than that. The Jets found a way to turn the ball over 4 times. 4 times. And the scary thing is, the Niners didn't even play that great of a game. The Niners, I mean, they let the Jets keep the game close. I think it was 10-0 at half. Jets were in the game. And the fact that the New York Jets are getting completely embarrassed. They can't get a single thing going offensively. It seemed like in the second half they struggled just to get a first down. Everybody was whispering, it was time to bring in Tebow. I thought it was. What do you have to lose? You're already getting embarrassed. So if he goes out there and runs a couple series, could it get much worse? That's the question I have. Could it get much worse than what you saw Sunday at 1 o'clock? Without Revis out there, this team looks lost in the secondary. More like Gilligan's Island in the secondary now for the New York Jets. And the funny thing is, San Francisco played football really. They just ran up and down the field, going for 250 plus. The backup quarterback, Colin Kaepernick, he looked like a better gimmick runner than Tebow ever was. This kid looked like Brad Smith 3.0. Made the Jets look bad. And a lot of Jet fans say, oh, well, we're 2-0 in the division and 2-2, and it's not a bad start. Wake up. you're selling yourself a bag of lies is what you're doing. Because if you think this team is even going to finish 8-8, you're taking bad salts. You're on something. I don't know what you're on. But you're not on this planet and you're not watching this football team that everybody else is watching. They're pathetic. Pathetic. There's like 3 guys on that squad that call themselves the New York Jets that are even legitimate football players. San Antonio Holmes, we all knew what he was. A quitter. A coward. I understand you hurt yourself, but hold on to the damn football. And I know most people don't want to even hear the Jets, especially at the open, but you always got to open with the train wreck. And the train wreck right now in New York City is the New York Jets. Don't forget you can follow us on Twitter at NYSportsGuys1. If you're tuned in and you want to give us a holler, you can do so. 862-248-0572. You want to call up Bash the Jets, that's fine. The Giants didn't fare so well themselves. They didn't play bad. They didn't play great. They played a decent team in Philadelphia. A team that I think will be able to hold their own. And now it's sitting at 3-1. And they haven't even played their best football. They're going to be in there at the end. They're going to somehow find a way to finish with 10 wins and be in the hunt. But the Giants, they could have had that one. Easily. Easily could have had that one. You can't blame it on one guy. Can't blame it on Eli. Can't blame it on Coach Coughlin. Can't blame it on Gilbride. You could chalk it up as a team blunder. How with 20 seconds left in field goal range of about 43 yards and no timeouts, or did they have no timeouts or one timeout? They had no timeouts. You throw the ball downfield to Ramses Barton of all people. If you're going to throw a ball to somebody in that situation, throw it to Cruz. I understand that they just drew 2 or 3 pass interference calls on Nnamdi Asomugha. Chance of you getting a 4th pass interference call on one drive is slim to none. At worst, they should have just ran the ball. Try to get 2 or 3 more. Get it within 40 yards. And let Tynes take it from there. But no, they decided to be aggressive. Which, hey, not many times in the Giants' history can you say they're an aggressive football team. This team is aggressive. They know offensively they can't really run the football. Which was a little disappointing to me because the way Andre Brown has ran the past week and a half prior to Sunday, you would figure they would give him a bulk of carries. They didn't. I think they gave him 5 touches. He had about 14 yards, not even 12 yards. And they gave Bradshaw about 10, 12 carries. He didn't do much with his carries either. I think as a team, they averaged under 2.8 yards a carry. So they weren't getting anything from their running game. But you didn't need much there. You're already in position. And for Ramses Barton, to even reach around, I know you're trying to make sure that the ball isn't picked there. You're 6'8", bro. You should be able to know that the ball's going over your head. That ball landed 4 or 5 yards out of bounds. No need to, unless Asomugha has turned into a 7-foot Shaq who can jump, about 13 feet in the air, which I don't believe he can. He had no chance of catching that ball and picking it off. And if he did, he was never going to be able to stay at bounds. If he would have caught it, that would have been amazing. But it would have been almost impossible for him to stay in bounds. So Ramses, I guess you chalk that up to inexperience on his part. A little bit of a bonehead play on all parts. You have to blame a little bit on everybody. That's Eli, Coughlin, and Gilbride. But, you know what? The Giants, their 2-2 is a lot better than the Jets' 2-2. The Giants' 2-2 leaves you with confidence that they're going to be able to compete throughout the year and do something with this 2012 football season. The New York Jets, on the other hand, They must be buying into this Notre Dame the world's going to end December, because that's why it looks like they don't care. Like there's nothing to play for. Like there won't be a January. The only thing I can say now, and maybe this is the only good thing, and I don't know if they've even come out with a clean diagnosis of Santonio Holmes' injury. As far as I know, it's a foot, not a knee. You fracture a foot, though. That's tough. I did that playing ball a couple years back. It took me a while for my foot to heal. Now it's just to play ball. That wasn't even to play football. So, and that's something that can keep him out a while. But at the same time, if they can get Dustin Keller back, maybe Sanchez doesn't feel the pressure like he has to force the ball to a guy who doesn't want to catch it in Santonio Holmes. Because that's what it seems like. He seems like he forces so many balls to Santonio. And half the time, Santonio doesn't even want to catch the ball. Doesn't even make an attempt. At one point in the, I believe it was the second quarter, third and 4, they throw a quick at Santonio. He's not even looking for the football. The guy's in space. This might be the best thing that happened to this team this year, is this guy getting hurt. Because he's nothing but a cancer. Back to the Giants. Their 2-2 is a comforting 2-2. Especially in a league where a lot of teams that you expected to be starting off hot and doing what they're supposed to do hasn't necessarily went that way. Green Bay's 2-2. Chicago's 2-2. If they're there, ass whooping they gave Dallas last night in Dallas. Boy, after opening night, I really was impressed with the Cowboys. The last 2 weeks, the effort they gave against Tampa, they somehow got a win. And what they showed last night, maybe they're not as good as a lot of people thought. A lot of people had high hopes for the Cowboys. My partner Garris thought that the Cowboys would be able to compete this year, win the division. Doesn't look that way. And the Cowboys are 2-2. See, the Cowboys 2-2 is more like the Jets 2-2, to where the Giants 2-2 is more like the Packers or New England's 2-2. And there's a lot of teams that are 2-2. Actually, I'm sick of saying those numbers together, so you get my point. But at the same time, the Giants should probably be sitting at 3-1. It happens. There's a couple bonehead plays every year. But at the same time, we all know that the New York Giants are going to be there when it's all said and done. Well, we hope they're going to be competing when it's all said and done. As far as the Jets, we don't even know if they're going to want to compete by the time we get to December. Question I have to everybody who is a Jet fan. Is it Tebow time yet? Is it time to bring in Team Tebow and see if he could do something with this offense that Sanchez can't? I mean, the way Sanchez is throwing the ball, in Pittsburgh, I think he was 13 for 34. Last week, he wasn't pretty, but he was good enough in the fourth quarter and on overtime to get the job done. And yesterday, Sunday night, 12 for 29. For 29 on Sunday. 13 for 34 against Pittsburgh. Those are Brandon Weeden opening day worst NFL quarterback performances I've ever seen type numbers. To be honest, over the last 3 weeks, he might be the worst quarterback in the NFL. Even Brandon Weeden has played better with less. I don't even think Tim Tebow's the answer. You can bring him in, see if he can do anything. See if he can, I mean, and let me tell you this. The the Jets try to pull, oh, well, we have a Tebow package and we're not showing it during the pre... You don't have a Tebow package. If you had a fucking Tebow package, you would have shown it already at some point. You could have moved the ball against Miami. You could have moved the ball against Pittsburgh. You could have moved the ball against San Francisco. Did you try to change anything? No. You stuck with your guns. And your guns came up completely empty, posting a big fat 0 on Sunday. If I was the Jets, I'd throw Greg McElroy out there. Why not? Over the last 2 preseasons, he looks like your best throwing quarterback. And you might say, you crazy? You're out of your mind. I'm going to tell you right now, first of all, the kid's a winner. Played at Alabama. You don't get to go to Alabama and play quarterback if you don't do anything with yourself. He won a national title. I know that their defense is sick, but still. He's been a winner. And don't give me this Sanchez, oh, Sanchez went to the AFC Conference Championship twice, 2 years in a row as a rookie and a second-year player. But you know what Sanchez has also done? He's digressed. Every year he's been in the league. The opposite of what your typical NFL prospect, quarterback, franchise quarterback, or prospect at quarterback does. You're not supposed to fall on your face in your 4th year when everybody said, oh, he was great in training camp. Oh, he had his best off-season workout ever. Oh, this guy really has control of this team. Well, if he has control of this team ain't going anywhere. Not that they're going anywhere anyway. And then this week they have the welcome in the Houston Texans, who are 4-0, who have dominated almost every week they've played. They have more than capable guys at all positions. Offensive, defensive, shit, even their special teams. It's a Monday night, prime time, nationally highlighted game, and the Jets might get shut out in back-to-back weeks. At home, no less. And what do you do then? Now you're sitting at 3-2. Now it's going to be 4 out of 5 weeks that you've been pitiful on offense. Now what happens if you don't score this week through 3 quarters? Are you going to give Tebow a shot? Because if you don't, why do you even have him here? But I still don't think Tebow's the answer. Let's see what this kid McElroy's got. He's got more balls than Tebow and Sanchez put together. He's got a better arm than both of them put together too. I'll tell you that right now. Everybody might be thinking I'm crazy, but you'll believe it when you see it. And if we get a chance to see it, McElroy will show it to you. I might take some hate on that. It's all fine and good. Anything else in the NFL that was really noteworthy? The Atlanta Falcons, last second field goal, pull off a win. That was a great 45 seconds by Matt Ryan, throwing a 60-yard pass to Roddy White, getting themselves in field goal position, getting the field goal to win the game. Houston dominated again. The Arizona Cardinals, who I didn't think were going to beat Miami, and it didn't look that way, somehow, they're the ugliest 4-0 I've ever seen. They don't ask how you want them, they ask if you want them. And so far, Arizona's won them all. Peyton Manning looked pretty good. I mean, I'm sick of seeing him on the national games, but he looks pretty good. And you look at his 2 losses. He lost to Houston, and he lost to Atlanta. Maybe the 2 best teams in football right now. Or 2 of the best playing teams in football, because you can't take the 49ers out of that conversation. The Cowboys take a spanking last night on Monday Night Football to the Chicago Bears. Absolute spanking. And Sanchez might have Tony Romo disease. A guy who does have the tools, but just doesn't know how to get it done. 5 picks. 5 picks on national television in your own building. I know the Bears are a good defense. They're not that good. You gave them a couple of those. Which is all fine and good for me. Washington, able to escape from Tampa Bay's wrath and get a 1-point win with a field goal with pretty much no time left or 1 second left. Let me say something. Tampa Bay and Miami, they might not be the best team as far as their record or the best teams as far as talent goes. But there's no 2 teams in the league who play harder and fight for wins than Tampa and Miami do. I mean, that state of Florida right now, you got the Dolphins, the Buccaneers, and the Jaguars. To be a football fan in Florida right now, I mean, you might have more interest in the Miami Marlins, who are in last place. That's how rough professional football in the state of Florida is. But a lot of these teams, all those teams are pretty young. All those teams have young coaches. All those teams seem to be going in the right direction. The Rams are not bad. Grabbing a win against Seattle, who everybody was very high on Seattle after last Monday night, where they kind of stole a game from Miami. The refs stole the game for them, but all in all, Rams have been in every game they've played. Steve Fisher's doing a good job down in St. Louis. And maybe Seattle's one of those 2-2 teams who, they're not the Jets and they're not the Giants. They might be somewhere in between, but we don't know what Seattle is. And the Patriots, I was questioning their offense Sunday morning. Their offense is just as good as it's always been, putting up 52 against Buffalo. I didn't think they had that type of offense left in them. But, of course, you got Tom Brady, you never know what's going to happen. The NFL's crazy. This year's been one of those years where you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's coming next. I mean, next week the Giants got the Browns, and in all honesty, if the Browns came into Giant Stadium and beat them, would I be surprised? Absolutely not. That's just the way the NFL season has gone. It's a little frustrating, but at the same time it's exciting. You're going to have teams who are 10-6 be at the top of conferences. Besides probably San Francisco. I mean, Atlanta is for real, but they always go on a rough stretch. Houston is for real. Baltimore's for real. There's about 5 or 6 teams you can say are good NFL teams right now. Really good NFL teams. The rest are kind of bunched up, and then you have a handful at the bottom who you can say, all right, these guys, we don't know about them. And that, you know, in that equation, you have teams like the Browns, the Dolphins, the Buccaneers, the Jaguars. You can't even see the Rams. Or even Minnesota, who I thought was going to be bad. They play pretty well. But in the next 2 weeks, you really see who the good teams in the NFL are and who's going to be what. That's what, you know, after 5-6 weeks, you really get a good feel for each team, their personnel. Not that there's many trades made in football, but you get a trading deadline. Once you get past there, your roster's pretty set. As far as the Jets go, too, back to the Jets real quick. I'm sorry, this just annoys the shit out of me. They have no receivers. You have 3 Hall of Fame receivers waiting for a phone call. And the fact that they haven't called any of them, especially, don't even say it's a character thing with Ocho Cinco or with T.O. or Plax. You got some of the worst characters in all of the NFL. Seems like the Jets want to be the old Raiders. Like, if you beat us in the game, we're going to beat you in the fight. I don't even think they could do that. But anyway, we're going to move on to something that's a little bit better. And that's Major League Baseball. Oh boy, this could be an interesting last few days. As I mentioned earlier, the last I checked, the Yankees were down 2-1 in the 6th. The Orioles were up 1-0 in the 7th. And we're going to go to a break for a minute, and we're going to pop right back. I'll come back with some updated scores. But that's not the only race going on. The Oakland Athletics have gotten themselves to within one game of the Texas Rangers. They currently have 2 more games in Oakland with Texas. If Oakland can win those 2 games and win the division and force Texas to play a wild card, that could be really interesting and really exciting. It's a shame that those games are on at 10 o'clock too, because it's too late for me to stay up here on the East Coast. But Oakland wins last night. They locked themselves up a playoff spot. All the playoff spots are locked up in both leagues. And we're going to get into it a little bit. You can give us a call if you're interested. 862-248-0572. That's 862-248-0572. My name is Gags, one half of the Garris and Gags duo that make up the New York Sports Guys. Garris isn't with us tonight. I am riding solo. With that being said, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with some Major League Baseball playoff talk in a bit.
Inefficient fundamentals at that position.
But can he play? Can he win games?
Can he play quarterback?
Play him now, find out. Do you
Believe in T-Ball Magic.
T-Ball Magic? Do
You believe in me? We'll see.
He's a nightmare. Your worst nightmare. Your worst nightmare.
How come they didn't do the same thing with Showtime quarterback? Come on!
Unbelievable things can sometimes be possible. We kept believing, kept fighting, kept going. If you believe everything that comes with my heart and my soul, we kept believing.
He's a gamer. He's a player getting better.
Kept believing.
Watch him bring his team together.
Tim Tebow
Off the hook. What you say, move off the hook. Tim Tebow off the hook. What you say, move off the hook.
He doesn't panic, doesn't fail, doesn't get deflated.
Well,
Fourth quarter comes, you wish you never played it.
kept believing.
He's got that will to win.
Come on, yo, Mr. Trey. You better believe he doesn't fail, doesn't get deflated.
well,
Fourth quarter comes,
You have to step up.
unleash
some people.
Let him go.
It's time.
Time will tell.
Let him work. Let him play on Sunday.
unleash
Some people.
Let him go.
It's time.
well,
Fourth quarter comes.
It's a no-brainer, guys. It is Tebow time.
I think we're rewriting the playbook.
The Denver Broncos select Tim Tebow.
Ever since I was a boy, there's always going to be naysayers and there's always going to be the haters.
He dominated in college, and he can get it done.
Now here's the situation. Can he play? Can he
Win games.
But can he
play?
quarterback?
I can't have faith in that.
Do you
Believe he wants to be great.
Do you
Believe in me. We'll see.
But don't get so entrenched in what he does best.
Understand he's got flaws. He's just very raw.
He can't throw the football.
Really inefficient at the
Quarterback.
position. Inefficient fundamentals at that position.
but
Can he play? Can he win games?
Can he
Play.
quarterback?
Play him now, find out. Do you
Believe in T-Ball Magic.
T-Ball Magic? Do you
Believe in me. We'll see.
he's a nightmare. Your worst nightmare. Your worst nightmare.
How come they didn't do the same thing with Showtime quarterback? Come on!
Unbelievable things can sometimes be possible. We kept believing, kept fighting, kept going. If you believe everything that comes with my heart and my soul, we kept believing.
He's a gamer, he's a player, getting better.
We kept believing.
Watch him bring his team together.
Tim Tebow.
Off the hook, what you say, move off the hook.
Tim Tebow's
Off the hook, what you say, move off the hook.
He doesn't panic, doesn't fail, doesn't get deflated. While fourth quarter comes, you wish you never paid.
We kept believing.
He's got that will to win. Come on, yo, Mr. Trey.
You better believe
He doesn't fail, doesn't get deflated. While fourth quarter comes,
You have to step up.
unleash
Tim Tebow,
Let him go.
it's time.
Time will tell.
Let him work, let him play.
On Sunday,
unleash
Tim Tebow,
Let him go.
it's time. While fourth quarter comes, it's a no-brainer, guys. It is Tebow time.
I think we're rewriting the playbook.
And we are back. This is Garrison Gags, the New York Sports Guys, live on Ustream.tv. I'm your host, Gags, rolling solo tonight, as Garris couldn't be with us. We're going to get into a little bit of Major League Baseball, and where I want to start here is with this playoff race, of course. The New York Yankees currently losing 2-1 in the top of the 8th inning to the Boston Red Sox. And the Baltimore Orioles have a 1-0 lead in Tampa in the bottom of the 9th. It looks like going into the last day of the season, you're going to have a tie between the Red Sox, the Orioles, and the Yankees. I don't think that the Red Sox are going to lay down for the Yankees tomorrow, especially if they can force them into a one-game playoff and make them not win a division. What's going on with the Yankees? Some days they hit, some days they don't. That's what happens with a team that relies on the home run. They get that one run in the second inning on a ground ball fielder's choice today. That's all they've done offensively. They had to face Leicester, but usually they can handle Leicester. Today, it seems like Leicester got the better of them. Game's not over, but with that being said, I think on Friday, or even Thursday, we're going to see one-game playoffs. I think the Yankees will be going down to Baltimore to play that one game to decide who's going to play in the one-game wild card and who's going to play in the actual series. Now, the one thing I don't like about this year's playoffs, and the teams that are in are set. You got Texas, Oakland, Detroit, Baltimore, and of course the Yankees. The only person who's safe and knows exactly where they stand is Detroit. They know that they'll be going on the road for the first two games of their series. Whether it's to Oakland, whether it's to possibly Baltimore. But I can tell you this. The one thing I don't like about this year's playoffs, and especially for the number one seed, let's say the Yankees happen to get the division. They don't have to play this one-game playoff with Baltimore. Let's X what I think is going to happen. The Yankees win the division. Baltimore has to go out to Oakland and play Oakland, and Oakland wins. The Yankees then, as the number one seed, let's say, have to go all the way out to Oakland to play the first two games of the playoffs. What type of an advantage is that to the number one seed? Of course, this is something that baseball fans in general have been discussing for the last few years. What was the difference between winning the wild card and winning your division? And this year they put emphasis on winning the division because you don't want to get yourself stuck in that one-game playoff where you'll have to use your ace or your second in the rotation to pitch that game leading into a series, to get to a series, the divisional series, that is. But for a team who has the number one overall record in the American League, for them to have to hop a flight on the other side of the country and play the first two games on the road, what type of advantage is that? A 5-hour flight? 2 games in a building where you haven't played well in the last couple of years? That being Oakland. I mean, if Baltimore wins that game and they get to travel to Baltimore, it's a quick train ride. Not that big of a deal. But if Oakland comes out of the wild card, the Yankees somehow get this number 1 seed, I don't see the advantage of having to fly 5 hours, 3,000 miles, playing 2 games, which you can easily go down 0-2. Have to fly 3,000 miles back to New York, and then have to sweep to advance. Does that make sense? Not to me. Where's the advantage of winning your division in that? In all honesty, if the Yankees win the wild card and they win the 1-game playoff, I'd rather a team come to New York for the first 2 games and then the Yankees go on the road for 3. That's the way I feel about it. Shoot, if I was the Yankees, playing the 1-game playoff is always dangerous. But if you win that 1-game playoff and you get rewarded with 2 games at home, is that a bad thing? I don't think so. But wouldn't it be something if the Oakland A's, who nobody expected to be where they are, if you did, you have to be a diehard Oakland A fan and have been hoping for the best. What they've done to be within a game of the division, finishing the year with the team that you trail by 1 game, having 2 games left. A team over the last few weeks who haven't played that well. Neither team in the West has played that well. Texas hasn't played that well. And Oakland hasn't played great. They're playing pretty good. I mean, they have won 4 in a row at this point. But Texas is 3-7 in their last 10. And the hottest team in the American League right now is the Tigers. And if you look at their roster, they're built for the playoffs. Now, I don't know if they'll have Max Scherzer ready for the playoffs. He did get injured, but, I mean, Verlander himself in a short series is a poison pill. Especially when you got a guy in the middle of the lineup who's probably going to be the first Triple Crown winner since '66. And if he's not the MVP, I mean, I understand Mike Trout has done some amazing things this year. The kid has a bright future. He's the future of the league. He went 4 for 5 last night. He plays as hard as anybody. If Miguel Cabrera wins the Triple Crown and doesn't win the MVP, there's something wrong with that. That's almost like saying the same thing for Dickey, who's going for number 21 tonight. And we'll get into the Mets in a few minutes. But how this guy wouldn't win the MVP, we would really have to examine the way sports writers vote for these awards. And I think it's a shame that the sports writers do vote for awards. I think they're some of the most clueless people when it comes to evaluating the game. I don't care if they're around it every day. I'm around it every day. That doesn't mean I'm always right when it comes, if I had a vote. And this sabermetric bullshit, this WAR stat, wins above replacement. Who cares? That's if somebody was to replace him. I mean, it's one of the stupidest stats, these sabermetric stats. They're so off. And if you're a baseball traditionalist, if you're an old school baseball guy, I like to consider myself one, you don't look at any of these stats with any type of legitimate meaning. I mean, show me the guy who knocks in the most runs and leads the league in hits, and that they take defense into consideration. Okay, defense is a part of the game. But how are you going to compare somebody defensively that plays center field and plays first base? You can't compare them defensively. They're two completely different type of players. But all in all, this American League playoff in general is a crapshoot. And a lot of it has to do with what's going to happen in Texas with the Oakland-Texas series these next 2 days. As far as if the Rangers have to play a one-game playoff against the Yankees. I mean, if that ain't must-see TV, I don't know what is. The two favorites in the American League are going to square off as the two little engines that could in Oakland and Baltimore win divisions. I mean, shoot. I talk about the NFL season being a crapshoot and you don't know what you're going to get. The way this Major League Baseball season's turned out, I guess you could say the same. I don't like the Yankees in the playoffs. I just don't. They don't hit consistently enough for average. They have power, but you face the best pitchers in the playoffs, and you don't hit many home runs. So the fact that they're like 4-18 in games that they haven't homered in this year is a big cause for concern. I like Texas, though. How do you not like Texas? They've been to the World Series 2 years in a row. They got a great bullpen. They got great starting pitching. We all know about their offense. And they have plenty of postseason experience. And we'll get into that next week when I get my partner back. We'll really, once we know the series. I mean, there might be some series that are completely gone and done with by the time we come back on air, but I think Texas is going to win their division. I think the Yankees were going to win their division, even though it might not be the bad thing if they don't. I wouldn't be surprised to see a one-game playoff in Baltimore Thursday night between the Yankees. Well, it's not a playoff, but a tiebreaker to see who gets the division, who gets the wild card. And if that's the case, whatever way it goes for the Yankees, they'll probably have to pitch Kuroda. Unless you're going to throw CC on 3 days rest after throwing 109 pitches in 8 innings yesterday. We'll see what the brilliant Joe Girardi decides to do. As far as the National League goes, National League's going to be fun. There's some good teams. You got balanced teams. Like Cincinnati. And Atlanta. Washington, who without Strasburg, I really don't know if they can make a run. They've won 96 games. You give them all the credit in the world. But without your best pitcher, Gio Gonzalez, for as good as he's been, I don't see him being the anchor for the staff throughout a whole postseason. You need a second guy. And they just don't have it, the fact, because they shut down Strasburg. I know they got good pitchers. I know Zimmerman's pretty good. But it's not enough. Cincinnati, they can pitch. They got one of the most dynamic relievers in Aroldis Chapman at the back of the bullpen. They got a Cy Young candidate in Johnny Cueto at the top of that rotation to go with the guy who threw a no-hitter the other day, Homer Bailey. And a couple other nice veterans in the mix there. And they got offense for days. Brandon Phillips, Joey Votto, Jay Bruce, Scott Rowland. This team can hit, boy. If they can hit in the postseason, look for Cincinnati to make a run. But if they happen to run into the San Francisco 49ers, look where my fucking head is. The San Francisco Giants, with the pitching that San Francisco can throw at you. The fact that over the last month they learned how to hit the ball. Buster Posey hitting like 400 since August 1st. The guy's been on a tear. San Francisco is dangerous. But for whatever reason, it comes back to the Atlanta Braves for me. I like what Atlanta does. I like the mix of youngsters and veterans. They got speed with Braun. They got power with Friedman. They got a veteran presence who's as consistent as they come in Chipper Jones. They have Kimball at the back of the bullpen who Some people are saying he deserves the National League Cy Young, which he doesn't. I like Atlanta. Call me crazy, call me maybe, or call me at 862-248-0572. But I think Atlanta's coming out of the National League this year. I just have a funny feeling about it. I've liked Atlantis from the start. They're in a division where a team who just got hot at the beginning stayed hot all year in the Washington Nationals. I think we might be looking at a Texas-Atlanta World Series. I don't know what you think about that, but that's what I think. And we can't forget about our little friends in Queens. The laughing stock of baseball, and that's the New York Mets. Some people are probably wondering, you got playoff races all over the place. Why are you going to talk about the Mets? Yeah, I'm talking about the Mets. The Mets had a good week last week. If any Met fan who's kind of been miserable since July 3rd, I don't blame you. It's been a rough second half. I don't know if this second half has been more depressing than the 07 collapse, but it just feels like it has been. Baltimore did go final. They did win in Tampa 1-0. The Yankees are in the 9th inning, still down 2-1, just to update anybody who's listening. But back to the Mets. For as bad as their second half has been, their month of September has not been completely miserable. Over the last week, they've had some good things happen. David Wright became the franchise's all-time hit leader, passing Eddie Kranepool with only like 1,400 and something hits. For a team that's been around for 50 years, you'd think that they would have somebody who's been with the team long enough to get more than 1,400 hits. But hey, Wright was able to do it in 8 years. Got to give the guy credit. What more does he have to stay a New York Met for? I don't know. Does he really think he can be a part of a rebuilding process and lead this team to a championship when he's going to be going into his back nine in the next year or two? As good as a player as he is, are you going to give him $100 million? I wouldn't. If the Mets even gave David Wright $100 million, would he stay? I guess he would have to see what other offers are out there. That's neither here or there. The Mets had a nice moment last week when David Wright became their all-time hits leader for the franchise. They also had a very nice moment, I believe it was on Thursday afternoon, when R.A. Dickey, the 38-year-old knuckleballer, becomes the first 20-game winner in the franchise since Frank Viola, I think in 1990. 22 years since they had a 20-game winner. A franchise that's built on pitching. I was kind of surprised when I saw that, to be honest. They've had some good arms in the last 20-something years. The fact that nobody's won 20, that just shows how bad that offense is. And real quick, the reason I wanted to get into the Mets is because of R.A. Dickey and the Cy Young. I've heard a lot of people say over the last week that Dickey doesn't deserve the Cy Young because he throws a knuckleball. That's bullshit. Dickey deserves the Cy Young more than any pitcher in baseball this year. When you look beyond the numbers, beyond the fact that the guy leads the league in strikeouts, beyond the fact that the guy leads the league in inning pitched, 220-something, probably up to 230 after tonight's performance, which they're in the 9th inning, tied at 3, so he's probably going to grab a no decision on this one. He's going to finish with a 20-6 record. I'm not sure if he gave up all 3 runs, but if he didn't, he probably has gotten to the lead in the ERA, which gives him the Triple Crown in pitching right there. You win the Triple Crown as a pitcher. You lead the league in strikeouts, ERA, and innings pitched. How do you not get the award? I understand that Gonzalez has one more win. I understand that Kimbrel in Atlanta has been lights out, pitching to like a .50 ERA all year. I think he's like 41 for 42 in save opportunities. The relievers have their own award, so I would leave the Atlanta closer out of this. I think it pretty much comes down to two guys, Gonzalez and Dickey. When you look at Dickey, here's a guy who's done something that nobody expected. He's won 20 games on a team that's 15 games on the 500, 14 games on the 500, who knows at this point. Actually, I could tell you in a second. They're 14 games on the 500 going in tonight. And he's 14 games over 500. He's the only guy who really, I feel like, gave an effort the whole year. But back to the numbers. He plays on a team that offensively is one of the worst in baseball. Gio Gonzalez plays on one of the teams that has one of the best offenses in baseball. Gio Gonzalez also has 2 more losses than R.A. Dickey. R.A. Dickey pitches on a team that has absolutely no bullpen. Gio Gonzalez pitches on a team that has a very good bullpen. Drew Storins, Tyler Clippard. They're not short of arms in that bullpen in Washington. So, but the thing that gets me is, I think he's thrown 7 or 8 complete games. How many complete games has Gio Gonzalez thrown? 2 or 3? R.A. Dickey has won 8 or 9 of his games with his offense scoring 3 runs or less. How many games has Gio Gonzalez won doing that? 4. Gio Gonzalez is pitching on a team with the best record in the National League. Dickey's pitching on a team that has the 4th worst record in the National League. A team that is like 5-30 at home in the second half. And I believe he has 4 of those 4 of those 5 wins at home in the second half. Here's a guy who goes out, he tries to give you a complete game every time. He has not backed down from any challenge. He went through one rough patch at the end of the first half, first 2 starts of the second half. But you take out those 3 or 4 starts, the guy's been absolutely brilliant. And don't forget, Dickey's bullpen has blown him, I don't know, 3 games, 4 games at least. There was one 2 weeks ago where he came out of the game in, I believe, the 8th inning. They came in, they gave up a couple home runs, boom. He grabs another decision. He was actually going the first time he went for his 20th win. This is a team that hasn't had a closer in the second half in the New York Mets. Washington got their closer back. And when you just look at it that way, for Dickey to win 20 games on a team that barely scores 3 runs a night, the consistency of quality that he's had to do to get the numbers that he's achieved this year is remarkable. Especially since about, I don't know, July 18th, we've all known that this team wasn't going anywhere. Since they came out of the break and lost like 12 or 13 or whatever it was. I think they went 2-20 in their first 22 games. That's the way it felt. They went from 3 games out to 15 or 16 in a matter of 2 weeks. But any Met fan that stuck with them, the one bright spot they had was R.A. Dickey. If the writers do not give R.A. Dickey the Cy Young this year, it's a sin. And that's the same for Miguel Cabrera in the American League if he doesn't win the MVP and wins the Triple Crown. Writers have been dying for a Triple Crown winner in either league. There's always all this hype about a Triple Crown when you get to August. With Hamilton a couple of years ago. Pujols was close a few years ago. It seemed like it was a part of the story every day. It wasn't until about the last 2 or 3 days that I really feel like Miguel Cabrera is even getting attention about this. I have a feeling even if he wins the Triple Crown, he probably won't win the MVP. Which is a shame because he should. They're going to give it to this kid Trout. On a team who isn't going to the playoffs. On a team that has guys like Albert Pujols and Torrey Hunter, who he kind of stole Torrey Hunter's job. Escobar, Trumbo. They got plenty of bats around him. Detroit, they got Prince Fielder. Who after Prince Fielder in that lineup scares you? Not much. So he single-handedly pretty much, and he single-handedly this week has gotten them back and clinched them the division. It seems like they weren't in first place for a month and a half, Detroit. And here they are with 2 days left. They have it all locked up. Why? Miguel Cabrera. But if Dickey does not win the Cy Young, and Miguel Cabrera wins the Triple Crown and does not win the MVP, Major League Baseball, Bud Selig, and the powers that be really, really need to evaluate the way these awards are handed out. I always thought, as a fan, their peers, meaning the players that play against them 162 times a year, who see it up close and personal, should be the people who vote within their league. I wouldn't say American League guys should vote for guys in the National League. I say all the American League players should vote for American League Cy Young, American League MVP. And the same for the National. National League players should vote for National League MVP, National League Cy Young. If I think that was the case, hands down, the guys who deserve to win the awards would win the awards. But when it comes to these baseball writers, boy, it gets tricky. CC should have won a Cy Young a couple years ago. Didn't. Pettit should have won a Cy Young back in '96. He won 21 games. He didn't. Whenever it comes to New York guys, they always seem to get jobbed by the writers. A couple years ago, Jeter, I think it was on 03 or 04. Jeter should have won the MVP. They gave it to Morneau. Has anybody seen Justin Morneau? Guy's still alive. All I know, it's going to be a good postseason for Major League Baseball. When you look at the teams, you look at their records, you look at the talent. I have never seen a year in Major League Baseball where it's harder to predict who's going to win the World Series. I mean, out of any of these 10 teams. Any of them. St. Louis, Seattle, San Francisco, Atlanta, Washington, Oakland, Texas, Detroit, Baltimore, and the Yankees. I wouldn't be surprised if any of them won the World Series. Maybe if Oakland won the World Series, I'd be a bit surprised. But I wouldn't be surprised if Baltimore does. Can anybody name me Baltimore's roster? Or starting rotation? But they can hit. Adam Jones, I mean, he's not going to win the MVP. He should get some consideration. He's carried that team, it seems like, all year. He's probably the best player in Major League Baseball that gets no national attention. I mean, I get to see him 19 times play the Yankees, and it seems like he killed them every time. The only team that would surprise me out of these 10 teams, if they won the World Series, I'm talking about winning the World Series, would be Oakland. They don't have a guy on their rotation who's over 25 years old. They got maybe 2 guys in their whole lineup that are over 25 years old. That team is so young, so inexperienced. And hey, they might not know better. They might go out there and say, hey, what do we got to lose? Shock the world. But you got the big beast in there. You got Detroit. You got Texas. You have the Yankees. I mean, if you flopped out Oakland and put in LA, take out Tampa, take out Baltimore, put in Tampa, that would have been a crazy fun playoffs. That's not the way it worked out. But in the National League, I mean, it's a crapshoot. It really is. I'm so excited for Friday night, for these playoffs, for everything to go down. The series start Saturday. I think some of them start Saturday, some of them start Sunday. And unless the team comes out and does a clean sweep real quick, none of these races the Yankees have tied it up in the bottom of the ninth. I just saw this come across my board. So, Yankee fans, hold out hope. It might not be tied going into tomorrow. The Yankees still might hold that 1-game lead. But these playoffs are going to be fun. And it's going to be more fun talking about them when I get my boy Garris back. And if you're out there and you're listening to me, big boy, I feel for you. You're in my thoughts tonight. If you need me, you know how to get in touch with me. And I hope you're able to join us next Tuesday. But for this Tuesday, we're going to call it a night. It's 2 minutes past 10. I'm tired. The Yankees have tied it up. I'm going in the next room to watch the end of this baseball game. Hopefully I don't fuck it up and lose it in the 10th, but hey, you never know. That's 2012 sports. You never know what's going to happen next. That's what makes it fun. If you're available on Sunday morning at 10 a.m., please join us as we break down some football. Maybe this week we'll even throw in some baseball playoffs because we'll be right in the thick of it. But I'll be riding solo on Sunday morning. If you can't join us on Sunday, next Tuesday, 9 p.m., Garris and Gags live on Ustream.tv. Good night, everybody.